coming through here. It's not so light anymore. That's the liquid feed that we just put in as it's mixing in with the ration. And then this feed will darken up just a little bit more. Okay, there's one more step to this ration, but we're not going to put it in today. It's in that grain bin. There is it's a balancing pellet, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. I'll kind of go over the ingredients I've put into my ration and why we're doing it as to a grow ration. And you just have to remember, this is not a finished ration. We're not finishing these calves, we're just growing them. So our first ingredient is corn silage. This is really old corn silage, but yeah, that's it's still really good feed. So there's our corn silage. The primary use for this is roughage. You know, a lot of fiber in here, and it has good protein to it. A little bit of energy with the corn, but mainly fiber, protein. That's kind of the big part of it, and it's cheap. And you can mix most of your ration, you know, half of your ration or so, or 40% of your ration as corn silage. And so it gives us a really cheap source of roughage to put in the ration. Our second source of roughage, and the last source of roughage, is ground hay. This is a oat hay and alfalfa. They are separate, but I grind the oat hay like 2 bales at a time, and then I'll grind a bale of alfalfa and let it blow in here. And this is why I grind my hay, is for the feedlot, just to go in those feed mixers. Because long stem hay, you cannot feed long stem hay through a feed mixer. Even when you put a bale of hay into a vertical mixer, it chops it up. So that's alfalfa there, and this would be your oats. We get some protein from this, and a lot of forage. You know, little forage and filler. The third thing that is actually a really important thing why we put hay into a grow ration is what happens is, instead of, because there's some rations you don't have to put hay, but when I put hay into this ration, it takes that calf time to break this down. It slows down their digestion. And so with all the corn and other ingredients that go into that ration, it has to set in that stomach, and it just takes longer. It slows down the whole process, and so you get a lot better usage of your ingredients that you're putting in. You get more digestion of the ingredients. It's a lot more usable and available to the calf. When you go to a finished ration, they hardly use any corn silage. It's mainly just grain, and they use absolutely no hay on the finished ration. For big commercial yards, I don't know about personal, but because they want to put as much corn through that animal as possible. They don't care if they see it coming out the other end. they want to put as much feed through that animal as possible to finish it up and get it fat. Whereas me, I want to build muscle and a little bit of fat, muscle and framework. So I want it to slow down. So the hay, the ground hay, is going to give us fiber, protein, and it's going to slow down our ration. And there'll be a little bit of energy in it too. And then we come over here to dried distiller grains. These are my DDGs, my dried distiller grains. So pretty much everything they're using to make ethanol and beer and anything like that, mainly ethanol, but so a lot of corn. This is all protein because, you know, corn, it's got some protein in it, mainly starch. Where they're taking all the starch out of this, and so what you're left is just the little holes, and it's really good protein. It's very good protein, but there's no you know, starch left for energy. And so this is our main protein source. This is the big protein source. Now, granted, everything we put in is going to be a little bit of protein, but this is our primary protein source, and that's pretty much what it's good for. Sorry about all the flies. We just packed this silage in here, and you get a lot of flies. And this is our rolled corn. And see, we rolled this really fine, so it's really easy for the cattle to use it. It's extremely easy for the cattle to digest it compared to bigger chunks. But this is your energy. A little bit of protein, a lot of energy. This is where you're going to get the primary amount of energy for that calf. And it's actually a pretty big part of the ration. Now, the final part, or the final two parts, you saw me putting in the liquid feed, the molasses. That molasses, liquid feed, whatever you want to call it, has a vitamin pack. Not a big one, but it has some vitamins. It's running 16% protein, but we're not putting a lot in, and it's running 11% fat. So the main reason to use it is for the fat and the ration conditioning. So if you have long chunks of hay that aren't as tasty, or long chunks of silage that was maybe a weed or something that went in that's not as tasty, that's why we use it. It's a ration conditioning agent. And I'm messing with my bipod, so you gotta deal with me. So what that does is it works really well for bringing calves on to feed. It'll get calves where they're smelling it in the bunk and it smells sweet, so they'll come right up to it and eat it. And sometimes we will use corn stalks. I haven't in a long time, or a really cheap source of hay, really nasty hay, and it's very handy for when we do that, because then it'll get those calves to eat that hay. My auger is broke right now, so we're not going to put any of this in here. But what this is, and this part is, there's a little pellet, and that is my main mineral pack, my main vitamin pack, and it has protein to it. What it really is a DDG balancer pellet, and so we're using dried distiller grains as our main source of protein. But they're taking everything out of those distiller grains, and so what what this pellet does is it fills in all the holes in the ration. So if we're short a little bit of protein here, or you know, any type of mineral or vitamin, that's what that pellet does. It's a very, very low inclusion rate. We don't really feed hardly that much of it, but it's really expensive. That's the bad thing about it, is it's very expensive, but it does a good job. And I really need to get my auger fixed because I haven't fed it in like a couple weeks. But I've been kind of busy with hay work. So those are the ingredients that I am putting into this feed ration. And the main purpose of it is to grow the calf's bone structure, give them a bigger frame, because you don't want a 400-pound frame calf weighing 800 pounds. They don't sell very good. So we want to grow muscle, all your muscle, your bone and everything, and then a little bit of fat. So, you know, we are putting a good amount of corn in there, but it's mainly for energy. And the roughage is where we start to grow a lot of framework. So, and we might be a little bit high on our feeding rates. Just, you know, we don't want them to get fat. And I've got some calves that after they've been in here a while, they get a little pudgy, and we may have to back off that a little bit. But for the most part, that's it hasn't been enough for me to be docked yet on anything. So we're just gonna kind of keep going with what's working. But I thought I was gonna be running all of the ranch calves this year in the feedlot. I may not be. I may be putting half on wheat and then buying some calves and putting on in here, and then putting the other half that I'm buying on wheat. I know the cattle markets are really, really terrible right now, so it's yeah, it's just kind of a guess as to what we're gonna do. So we're gonna push net gross. Kind of give you a lowdown on our scale function. You see all this whiteout? I bought this truck out of a dairy in Arizona, and everything was in Spanish, so I had to play with all the buttons to figure out what they were doing. So this is my chain conveyor. This is what takes the feed to the bunk. This is the PTO for the box. This is my little light. This is another light, and this is my chute and feed door. So I need to put my chute down. You can see it's going down. And then I need to pick my feed door up, which if you look, there's a little bit that comes up. And yeah. So all these calves have feed left in their bunk. If you can see, there's a lot of feed left in the bunk. I haven't been getting back till really late at night for the past couple nights, so I haven't been feeding at regular times. But so we're gonna give them a little bit less today. I'm not a big fan of shoveling bunks if I don't have to, so I would give them a little bit less and make them eat everything else up. So I went a little over, but it's kind of hard not to do when you're only feeding 150 pounds. So I write down 180 pounds for this pin. Then I go on to the next pin, and I just leave my chain conveyor switch on. The next pin's been getting 700 pounds. I'm gonna give them 600 this morning because they still have a lot of feed. It also rained last night, and that'll drop off their intake quite a bit too. So I want them to clean it up. And that's the one thing about finishing or doing a grow yard is there's a lot of roughage in that bunk. They sorted out, and so I will. I can make them clean it up since it's my own business. Big yard, they'll sweep the bunks because they want to be as efficient as possible. But since I'm kind of sitting here just doing my own thing, I can make them clean them up to a point. But it's all just kind of, I guess, personal preference. That went way over. 650. It's kind of hard to not do that sometimes. And these guys got a tremendous amount left. One of the big problems is if you'll see that ration, there's not any really corn or anything left to speak of. It's all hay and long chunks of stuff. So we'll get out and we'll look through that real quick. That's we're gonna give them a little bit. That's where the molasses really comes in, because that stuff's been there. They've been kind of sorting through it here lately. They're getting kind of picky, and we've been getting some rain. They love to sort through stuff when it rains. But when you're feeding molasses, it wettens. Well, I call it a ration conditioner, and the silage is wet. And what it does is, let me get out here. We'll turn our truck off. Here, just give me a second. So, the one thing we never want to do as when we bring cattle in, especially when we bring calves in, see, this is all, that's like part of silage and stuff. Yeah, that's silage that they sorted out. Now this stuff that's down here, I need to shovel this out. That's been in there too long. It needs to be shoveled out. So, because it got rained on and it's been in here for a day or two, and they're just not picking it up. I need to shovel that. So there is some feed that I know I have to shovel, but what they will do when they start, when they start getting pretty happy, is they will actually sort through some of this hay and kick it out. They won't eat the hay. Oh, there's a piece of net wrap. That's why we need to cut the net wrap off our bales. I've been in a hurry here lately. Usually you don't ever find a piece that big, but we did today on camera. So it's yeah, we need to sort it out. We need to be cutting it off. And when I really start feeding this winter, I will. But well, I'm finding all kinds of that shit right now. Of course I got the camera on. I don't hardly ever find any that much, but I got a camera on, so I'm gonna find all of it. But they will go through and they will sort, and you see this is a nice dense ration, but they will sort through it to where it's like that, and they'll sort all the long stuff out. If I wasn't putting in liquid feed, this whole bunk would be from top to top just this stuff, them sorting it out, because cattle get really picky when they get really happy. But we're putting in liquid feed, so they're eating quite a bit of that, and we'll get them to eat it all. But what's really crazy is I'll shovel this stuff out into the bunk and then they'll eat it. I don't get it. They're silly critters. But yeah, that having silage, a real wet silage, and then like molasses will dampen this ration, and they eat it a lot better. If not, then you have lots of dry powder, and it gets in there, it gets up in their lungs and it makes them sick, and you just don't want that. But that is our grow ration minus the balancing pellet. So I hope this was an informative video. I hope you liked it, and I hope it answered a lot of the questions people have been having, and we will go from there. If you have any more questions, by all means, just put them in a comment, because I will be quite honest with you. I have been doing this for 4 years now, and it took me about 2.5 years to get to where I was really getting a consistent product through the equipment I've traded for and gotten, and through all the companies I have gone through buying products from. Just all trial and error. I went to a big ag college, and I didn't do any of the animal science stuff where they teach you all this. I didn't do that. My wife did, but so I've had to learn everything the hard way. And when you start to do things the hard way, it's not very fun at all. It's just not fun. So, but I've finally gotten a really consistent product that I'm really happy with. I've got the equipment that it takes to make a consistent product reliably. You know, it takes a lot of time. I've got a commodity barn now that it just is tremendous benefit to have. The hay grinders, the horizontal box mixers, just everything. It takes a lot of time and money to get to where you can put out a consistent product quickly. Now I could do it with less equipment, but it takes longer. And when you start running a lot of cattle, then you're gonna spend all day doing that. Whereas right now I don't have all day, and so I need to do it as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So that's if you get a wild hair to start feeding cattle, know that you're definitely ask around. Ask people as much as you can. Ask a lot of questions, and it will help you out tremendously. Because I can promise you, if you're just gonna go out and you think you're just gonna start feeding an animal and it's gonna make you money, you might on a couple of them, and then you're probably not going to on a lot of them until you get it all figured out, which it takes a while. I'm gonna grab my video camera stuff and my coffee cup that I'm not supposed to have out here. I've got like 8 of these coffee cups that if somebody who watches my channel knows I have them out of the house, then I might start missing some hair. But she's not here. So yeah, by all means, if you have any questions about, if you get a wild hair and you want to start feeding cattle, feel free to contact me. And if you're really serious about it, I might even talk to you over the phone and tell you what I know and the things I have learned. I know there's a couple other guys on YouTube that would do the same thing, because it's pretty miserable when things aren't working. It really is. And with our cattle markets the way they are, you can't afford to have any hiccups. And so if you can talk to, I may not know anything, you know, I know the things I've done that don't work. So even if you can talk to somebody like myself who can tell you the things that have not worked for them and why they haven't worked for them, then it might be pretty useful. It's not the people, you can talk to people who say don't do that, and then they don't tell you why. That doesn't help you out at all, because then the first thing you're going to do is, why doesn't that work? But yes, so that's what I know today. I'll put this up, and if you have any questions, just feel free to contact me. Thanks for watching.